There she is. Hi, sorry. We
That's
were
okay.
having technical difficulties. Sorry. There we go. Because it's echoing. You guys need to turn it on mute. I do. Okay, everybody needs to mute. Okay.
Sorry, Bethany, we're trying.
That's okay. That's okay. I thought I was having a problem. I was like, what did I do?
I don't think we can do that. You guys need to shut yours off.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, sorry, Bethany. Yeah.
Somebody's still on.
We're gonna have to just watch here. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Everyone's just echoing and I don't know why. So we just turned it off. We're all gathering around. There should be people joining.
I don't know why that's there.
It's you and me.
No, on the bottom.
Oh.
How do I make that go away?
It's 10 o'clock where she is, guys.
Okay.
We need to.
All right. Hey, Bethany, you won the Spirit of Arbonne Award a couple years ago, didn't you?
It was Parade of Champions.
The Parade of Champions. Yeah, I remember that. You were super cute, and I've met you in AIT. I'm Stephanie Price. You probably don't remember. It was a long time ago, but I just remember you were so cute. And
You're so funny.
So, yeah. Anyways. Awesome.
Yay, good.
We're all set. So.
Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. I thought I was doing something wrong, so I'm just glad it wasn't me.
No, it's me.
I'm learning technology. I'm getting better and better, right?
I'm good.
Okay, awesome. Well, great. Well, I'll share with you guys tonight. So I'm excited to talk about this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bethany. I'll give you my really nutshell version of Arbonne, how Arbonne's been in my life. But I was first introduced to Arbonne probably like 12 and a half years ago. It's been a long time. And I was actually introduced with baby products. I had never heard of Arbonne. I didn't know what it was, but a friend gave me the baby products when my oldest was born. And that piqued my curiosity. I got a sample of the RE9 line shortly after that. And I honestly was like, thanks, but I don't use skincare. Because I didn't. I had never used skincare in my life. But it was a free sample, so I tried it. And as we all know how it goes, I fell in love. And I wanted all the Arbonne, but I wanted it at a deal, right? So that's how I ended up as a consultant. I just wanted the best deal. So it took me about 8 years of consulting for my family before I actually jumped into the business. I jumped in not because we necessarily needed money. In fact, we didn't. I had my second baby. My husband was working for himself from home. On the outside, you probably would never think to offer me the business. But on the inside, we were like miserable. I mean, my husband was miserable. He hated his job. So doesn't matter how much money you make. If you hate your job, it's not good for anybody, right? It took me a bit of courage because, quite frankly, I was really nervous about being, the scary Arbonne lady, the person that's always trying to sell you stuff and your friends are hiding, and I didn't want to be that person. So it took me a bit of courage to jump all in, but you guys, it is so, so worth it. It is, honestly, I tell people, I'm like, well, next to Jesus and Jimmy, my husband, I mean, Arbonne's been my best decision I've ever made. It really has changed my entire life, and I don't just mean with a paycheck. I mean, every area of my life. I mean, it's helped me in my marriage. It's helped me in friendships. It's helped me in parenting, clearly in finances too, but so many things bigger than just a paycheck. It is so worth your time and energy. And and really your commitment to personal growth, because that's what it's going to take. So I know this call is not really necessarily about Arbonne, but it is part of my life. And self-talk came into my life because of Arbonne. Because I said yes to Arbonne, I was introduced to Dr. Shad. And so for those of you who have never heard Dr. Shad Helmstetter, if you ever get the opportunity, please do go listen, do whatever you can to go and hear him. I first heard him when I first signed up 12 years ago. And I remember sitting there and being totally fascinated by this message, but a little skeptical, but really interested. But you're never in the same place, right? I mean, I heard it again 4 years ago, and that time I heard it, I was ready for it and ready to receive like all that it came with. So I got to know Dr. Shad on a personal level. I like to say politely persistent in asking him to come to my car presentation when I went Regen. Because his work played such a big part in my journey, I was like, you have to come. And he was like, I don't do that anymore. And I was like, but you have to come. And so he came, and that was awesome. And then I got certified last year in January. So about a year and a half ago, I went through his last in-person personal certification process to present the message I'm going to share with you guys, because I believe that it is that important. As much as I love Arbonne, I might love self-talk a little bit more. Don't tell anyone. No, but really, I mean, I feel like, everybody needs Arbonne, in my opinion, but not everybody will be open to having Arbonne in their life. But self-talk is a message that every man, woman, child, old person, young person, anywhere can use and apply to their life. And so I feel like it is absolutely crucial to get the message out. So, okay, so I'm going to talk fast, right? All right, so I got notes here so I don't get off track. Okay, so if you've ever heard Dr. Shad, it'll probably sound a little bit familiar, but all right, so from the moment you were born, every message that you received was recorded into your brain, okay? So everything that you say, everything you hear, everything you do, everything you see, everything you experience, and even every thought that you think gets recorded into your brain. And every message that we get repeatedly gets wired in. So we've learned from the field of neuroscience that the key to wiring your brain is repetition, right? Repetition, repetition, repetition. And the messages that you get repeated the most wire your brain the most. The problem is, your brain doesn't understand right from wrong. It doesn't know good from bad, positive from negative. Your brain kind of works like a computer. It simply records it and acts as though it's truth. So I like to think about it this way. It doesn't know right from wrong. It simply goes to work to make whatever you tell it the most truth. So if you can get that concept, that's really powerful and life-changing. Okay, so the question we always ask is, why are some people successful and other people aren't? Well, I believe that success really is neurological, which brings us to the word neuroplasticity. I love it, right? I get a little nerdy about it, but I love it. Neuroplasticity, okay? The scientific discovery that your brain continues to rewire itself throughout your entire life. So it's actually programmed or wired to succeed, or wired to fail, or somewhere in between. So Dr. Shad, in his decades of research, discovered that if you grew up in a reasonably positive home, you were during your first 18 years of life, you were told no, what you could not do, or what would not work more than 148,000 times. So the first time I heard that statistic, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be the yes mom for everything. Okay, but not really. But I mean, think about that for just a second. If you grew up in a reasonably positive home during your first 18 years of life, you were told no, what you could not do, or what would not work more than 148,000 times. That's a lot. And communication isn't necessarily always verbal. It could be that look at the dinner table. It could be the pinch in church because you're laughing or whatever. We get communication a lot of different ways. So researchers have told us that as much as 77% of all the programs that you and I have today are either false, harmful, or they work against us. So I want to talk for just a minute about fear, because I feel like fear is ultimately the biggest thing that holds us back from everything good in life, right? From everything. So why is it so easy to think negative, or to go to that place of fear, or to go to that place, right? Why is that so easy? It's so much easier than going to the positive, it seems like. Well, there's this little thing in your brain called the amygdala, and the amygdala is basically responsible for our body's fight or flight response. Okay, so it's always on alert. It's just waiting to do its job. But in this day and age, you know, if you hear a rustling in the bushes, there's probably no saber-toothed tigers in your backyard. And most people that come to your front door are probably friendly. So that amygdala is just hanging out, waiting to do its job. So there's a couple of ways we found scientifically to help calm your amygdala, to, you know, get that fear under control. So one of them is practices like meditation. Okay, so sometimes in the faith community, people get weirded out. Meditation is not weird. It's simply, you know, bringing focus, calm, mindfulness to a certain subject, right? Another thing is, the second thing is practices like yoga, which again, help to bring calm and focus and mindfulness. And then the third way we've found to help calm that amygdala is with self-talk, which we're going to talk about today, right? Tonight. So self-talk. So I want to kind of show you how that works. I want to, how we get programmed and how self-talk and all of that works. So I want to give you a picture that you can keep with yourself. And it's called Self-Talk Park, and it works like this. So let's say you're a brand new baby, you've just been born, and you magically find yourself standing in Self-Talk Park. And Self-Talk Park is beautiful. It's a blank slate. There's no roads, no pathways at all. It's just endless green grass, you know, beautiful tall trees, white puffy clouds, and a blue sky. It's like the perfect place to be, right? So let's say you get your first message, and it can be any message, and when you get that message, you take a few short steps, right, through Self-Talk Park. So you look back, you stop, you look back. You can hardly even see where you walked because you've only gotten that message one time, right? You haven't formed a pathway yet. But then again, let's say you get that same message again and again and again, and pretty soon you can start to see where you've been walking. You haven't formed a pathway yet, but you can start to see where you've been walking, and that same message, it gets repeated frequently again and again. And remember the law of repetition? I mean, in the brain, each time a message is repeated, the brain is actually creating a pathway, a chemical, physical, neurological pathway, and it gets stronger and stronger each time that message is repeated. So, for example, how many of you guys have ever heard somebody say, I can never remember names? Or maybe you've said that yourself. So here's a great example. I can never remember names. So here it is. You know, your brain, remember, it's like a computer. It doesn't understand if that's truth or not. It just hears you say it, hears you repeat it, and the more it gets repeated, it goes to work to make that truth. So pretty soon, you probably are meeting new people, and of course you're saying, oh, I can never remember names, oh, I'm terrible with names, yada, yada. And pretty soon you probably find that in truth, you have a hard time remembering names, right? So that's just one example of how powerful it is, how you can create those pathways, maybe not even intentionally, but you just say it like that. You know, I'm terrible with technology, or, you know, 6-year-old Susie hears, you're going to grow up and be chubby just like your Aunt Jo. Well, with enough repetition, pretty soon, 6-year-old Susie is 30. She looks a great deal like her Aunt Jo, but she is wired now to make choices to support that, you know, overweight picture of herself in her brain. It's that powerful. You know, they don't even have to be related. It's that powerful. So in our own lives, ultimately, we end up becoming our #1 programmer. And in time, most of our pathways in Self-Talk Park actually come from us. And unfortunately, many of those pathways are exactly the wrong messages, right? So let's go back for just a minute to Self-Talk Park. Let's just imagine for a minute behind me is a blank, an entire map. This wall is an entire map of Self-Talk Park. And it's filled with paths and walkways and roads and highways and superhighways. We all have a map like that, thousands of paths in our brains that we follow. It is probably easy to see that some of them are exactly the wrong pathways, right? But our brain kind of follows them like on autopilot. So for example, if you work, an office job or something, you go to the same place every day, I bet that there's times when you've gotten in your car at your house, arrived at your destination, don't even remember the drive because it's a super highway. You've done it so many times, your brain just does it automatically, right? It's that powerful. In your brain, every message that you get from your own self-talk creates those pathways, and they're very real, right? So what about the person you were before you got wired? Back to that question, why are some people successful and other people aren't? Well, I believe that, you were actually born to succeed. I believe it's actually in your DNA. I don't believe that God creates anything to fail. I mean, think about it for just a second. If he could spend all that time to create, intricate, unique, beautiful snowflakes that melt in like 5 seconds, right? How much more would he spend and invest in you? You're the ultimate greatest creation, right? I just don't believe that he creates anything to fail. I believe that we were born to succeed. We were designed to be successful. So why aren't we all as successful as we were born to be? So for just a minute, I want you to imagine that you're standing in a newborn hospital nursery. And, if you've ever been there, you see all the little babies lined up in their bassinets, right? They're all swaddled up. And if they're awake, their eyes are open and they're just searching and they're looking. They're just waiting to live out their incredible promise and potential. It's not like somebody ever looks at a newborn baby and says, well, that one right there is going to do amazing things. But the one next to it, loser. I mean, nobody says that, right? Nobody says that about a brand new baby. So the promise and potential that you were born with, it never, ever goes away. It never goes away. It can get covered up with bad self-talk and bad programs, but underneath, it's still there. So in the years that have gone by since you were an infant, the programs that you have gotten are responsible to, have taken you to where you are today. So I want you to imagine for just a minute 2 people. On one side, I want you to imagine the most successful person that you can imagine, ever, think of. Living or not, successful in every way. It doesn't just have to be financially, but, in relationships and business, whatever that looks like. So the most successful person that you can think of. In their life, they're spiraling up. You'd like to emulate them. You want to learn from them. They're confident. If you ask that person to come up and stand on the front of a stage, they could probably get up there, stand, smile, make eye contact, no problem, right? On the opposite, I want you to imagine the least successful person that you can think of. Maybe they left home when they were 16 or 17. They might be unrecognizable. If they're still alive, they're definitely spiraling down in their life. They're on drugs, probably like the least successful person that you can think of. And if you ask that person to come up and stand on the opposite side of the stage, I mean, it would be really difficult for them to get up there. And if they got to the front of that stage, they sure would not be making eye contact or smiling or any of that, right? So here we are. We have one of the most successful people that you can think of and one of the least successful people that you can think of. And so why is one successful and one failing? Well, the simple answer is their self-talk, their programs. Imagine for a second if you were listening to this successful person over here, you would probably hear words like belief, faith, goals, achievement, opportunities. Can I help you? Yes, I can. You would hear that coming out of their mouth all the time because literally that is who this person is. That's their self-talk. That's who they have programmed themselves to be, right? On the opposite side, you would probably never hear those words. You would almost never hear things like belief, faith, goals, achievement. Can I help you? Yes, I can. All of that has been covered with bad self-talk, bad wiring. This person was wired to be successful just like everyone else. and then they got wired to fail, right? You know, nobody tries to do that. Let's talk about that for just a second, because it's not like people get married, have kids, and say, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's get married, have kids, and totally screw up their brains, right? I mean, people don't say that. Well, 99% of the population don't do that, right? So, you know, to put it in perspective, you know, our parents were wired, and most of the people in our lives were wired by people who got wired, by people who got wired. We're all just trying to do the best that we know how, right? So the most incredible thing is that these two people could have been lying side by side in that newborn nursery, you know, born in the same hospital, same city, same day, maybe even the same hour. Of course, all of us want to be over here on the successful side, right? So I want to talk to you about how we can do that. I want to give you guys some practical things that you can put into practice. So back to that word neuroplasticity for just a minute. You know, the brain is designed to change its programming. It's kind of funny, you know, back in the day in school, we were taught that, you know, you take an IQ test and basically that says you're smart or not. But how absurd is that, right? You know, you take one test and for the rest of your life it's determined. We know now from MRIs and brain scanning in the field of neuroscience that that's absolutely not true. Your brain is designed to change and wire itself throughout your entire lifetime to your very last breath. I mean, even in this moment, we're wiring ourselves, right? So how do you rewire? Of course, the question is, how do you rewire your brain the right way? How do you change your programs? How do you change your self-talk? So let's talk about that for a second. I want to give you 3 steps, okay? So Dr. Shad has narrowed it down to these 3 steps. They work. I promise. I'm living proof. But step number 1 is monitor. Another word for that is mindfulness, okay? So being aware of everything that you think, everything that you say. I talk to my girls. I have 2 girls. They're 5 and 12, and I talk to them all the time about guarding your gates. You know, I have people that talk to me all day long, but there's very few people that I allow to speak into me and over me. That's different, right? Guarding your gates. You have a lot of control over who you allow into your inner circle, or who you allow to speak into your life, or what's on the radio, or who are the people that you're hanging out with. You know, you have a lot of control over that. You can change the station, you can turn it off, you can turn the TV off, whatever that is. So being monitoring, being mindful is step number 1. Okay, step number 2 is editing, okay? So stop before you think it or say it. I like to think about thoughts as butterflies, okay? I like pictures. It helps me remember things. But thoughts are like butterflies. Here's a concept. You don't have to think every thought that comes into your head, right? Amazing. I mean, we all have thoughts. We're human. But think about them as butterflies. They're coming. You see them coming. This thought does not serve me. You don't have to let it land and hang out. You can shoo it away, right? If it does not serve you, don't let it hang out. For just a second, I want you guys to think about this. You know, if you could hire somebody to follow you around for 48 hours and write down everything that you say to yourself, chances are that you would never talk to somebody else the way that you talk to yourself. And quite frankly, I feel like that is unacceptable behavior. You should be your number 1 fan, okay? All right, so, but editing by itself won't rewire your brain. That takes repetition. Remember that? Law of repetition, repetition, repetition. So step number 3 is to listen to the right kind of self-talk, to literally reprogram yourself. This is not really a new concept. You know, back in Bible days, Paul was talking about it in Romans, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's not a new idea. It's just new that we can see it scientifically now, which I think is totally awesome. I love that. I feel like it totally validates, well, for me, it validated my faith. I was like, this is incredible. I mean, you can see it. It's awesome. Okay, so the most effective way that we have found to change your programs and literally rewire your brain is by listening to the right kind of self-talk. So I want to talk to you for just a minute about when and how to do that, okay? And then I want to give you a starting point. Well, a recommended starting point. This is what I always recommend because I love Dr. Shad and it works. So, but when and how to listen. Okay, so the best times for you to listen is 30 minutes after you wake up. Okay, so in the morning, and then 30 minutes before you go to bed in the evening. And then if you want to follow Dr. Shad's program, he's got an 8-week starter program that I always recommend to people. It's a great place to start if you don't know how to do this yourself. There's also 2 daytime programs that he has in there, and those are best listened during a self-talk sandwich, I like to say. So 2 things that are a habit. So for instance, driving to work and from work, or making breakfast, making dinner. So something that you're doing that's already a habit that you do every day, okay? So morning, the habit time, evening. Those are the best times to listen. Your brain is most readily accepting if you're doing something that's already a habit, or first thing in the morning and first thing in the evening. Okay, so on the sheet that I gave you guys, or sent to Pam if you need that, I'll also send you, Pam, I'll send it to you in a link, and then the 8 weeks, I can send that to you also. But he has a recommended 8-week program. It's called the Lifetime Library, but there's a 30-day trial option. If you want to try out his self-talk, there's a link that you can go to. You sign up. It's a $20 monthly subscription, but you can cancel it whenever you want. But the first 30 days are free. And at the very least, I'd encourage you guys to get on there and do that, because his book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, the audio version is also on that. So you can listen to the book, get a few weeks of programs, and then if you want to continue, great. If you don't, you can cancel it. But I'm going to give you a great starting point, an 8-week routine to go through. So week 1, you want to listen to Taking Control of Your Life. Taking Control of Your Life would be week 1. Week 2 would be Self-Esteem. And these are all programs. So for instance, in Self-Esteem program, you're going to have a morning, 2 daytime, and an evening. You're going to listen to those for 1 full week. And then week 3, you're going to switch to Personal Growth. Okay, Personal Growth for week 3. Week 4 would be Positive Relationships. Week 5 is Career Achievement. Career Achievement. So this is going to cover everything, you guys. Week 6 is Health and Fitness. Health and Fitness. Week 7 is Financial Success. And then week 8 is Quality of Life. Okay, so that's a really great starting point to do that 8-week cycle. My husband just started his 4th 8-week cycle. And let me just tell you guys, he's been to everything that I've ever been to with Dr. Shad. And it's only been about, 2, 4, 6, 8, I don't know, 4 months? No, 8 months ago? I don't know. I can't do the math tonight. I'm tired. But anyway, so he started it several months ago. And you guys, we went and visited some friends, and they asked me, they're like, what is going on with Jimmy? Like, he's always been great, but he's so different. Like, he's got a calmness, a focus, a peace. There is something different about him. What's going on? I'm like, I know. I can see it. I mean, it's happening in my own house. It's so amazing. I also use it with my kids on that 30-day trial, that subscription. They have ones for little kids. They have one for older kids. They also have one for tween girls. Can I get an amen? I mean, I've got one of those in my house. But I use it with my kids all the time. They love it. My 5-year-old, just to give you an example, one of the things on the little kids, it's like, when someone says, how are you? I smile really big and I say, I'm incredible. And you guys, we were in the checkout line at the grocery store, and the cashier says, hey, how are you? And she looks at him. She smiled really big, and she was like, I'm incredible. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's working. I'm programming my kids, but it's amazing. I mean, think about it. If I could have gotten that kind of, self-talk and programming and belief and my own abilities and what God's put inside of me at age 5, I mean, that's like unstoppable, right? I mean, in my mind, I feel like it's so powerful. So I just got the timer, 10 minutes. Okay, I'm almost done. But you guys, it's so incredible. This is a gift that's not just for you. I mean, this is going to be a gift for your whole entire home, your family, your children, your spouse. It is amazing to watch how it's changed our family. So I share it because I know how powerful it is. I know what it's done in our own lives. And I want you guys to know that it can do the same thing for you. So I want to wrap up with just sharing my own story. At the beginning, you're like, oh, you won the award, whatever, a couple of years ago. So the story behind that goes like this. I jumped into my business kind of assuming that I'd go region really quickly because I had been around Arbonne for a long time. And I went district in like 5 weeks, but then I was a district manager for 12 months, right? But 9 months into that, we moved to a completely different state. I didn't know anybody. In fact, I had one friend there. To this day, she still won't host a party for me. So I had nobody, right? I had nothing. So I moved and I was honestly kind of depressed. I was not doing really well, but I knew that I was supposed to do this. Like I knew in the depths of my soul that I was supposed to do Arbonne. So almost out of spite, if I'm going to be truthful, I was like, okay, well, Dr. Shad says your brain is like a computer. It goes to work to make whatever you tell it the most truth. So I'm going to see if that actually works for me. So I sat down on September 3rd and I wrote out a vision statement, just stuff that I believed in my heart that I felt was true for my business. I'm happy to share that. So if you guys want that, just let me know. I'll send it to you, Pam. But I made the decision that I would read that every single night before I went to bed, right? Repetition. And so I started doing that. And you guys, I'll be honest, I didn't feel it. My feelings did not line up, but I knew the power that was behind this. And I wanted to see if it would work for me. So I wrote that on September 3rd of 2013. So November 3rd of that year, 2 months to the day, I basically begged a college acquaintance to go with me to a car presentation. She drove an hour. I drove 2 hours. I didn't know anybody there. Hadn't seen her in several years. And she came and she became my very first business builder. So that was in November. December, she finished district. We went into area qual. And you guys, you have to understand, I was a team of 1. And I was bonusing, but it was like 5,000 for months. And actually, I wrote that vision statement in September. In October, I got my paycheck September. I got my paycheck from August, the month we had moved. And I'd hit 5,000, but I don't think I had the sponsor. So I didn't get my district bonus. It's like one of the only times. My check was like $287. It was $207.82. It was the lowest paycheck I had gotten that year. And I was like, if that would have been the time to quit, that would have been the time to quit, right? But I made the decision not to, of course. I decided. But we went region qual in December with 14,000. We finished, or I'm sorry, not region. We went area qual, 14,000. That January 2014, we finished with 20,000. And that year, I consistently, I kept bringing in new people every single month. And I didn't even have to ask. They were asking me to join. It was like my vision statement was happening. It's like magic, but it's science. It's so cool. So, but anyways, that year, we were hitting 20,000 every month, 20,000, 20,000, 20,000, 25, 20, 25. And so October hit and my team was like, we're not finishing as an area. So we went into region qual in October with 6,000 or something. So November hit and I was kind of panicking. So I'm like, oh my gosh, now we got to finish this. And we hit, I don't remember, 38,000 or something like that. And then December hit and, around, the 10th or so, my husband's like, you need to start writing out what you want every day. And so 15 times a day I wrote, I have pages. I have 46K QV by December 30th. I have 46K QV by December 30th. And I put 46 because I knew that would push us over a little and I wouldn't be stressed. And I put the 30th because I didn't want to be freaking out on the 31st. So December 20th came, and you guys, we still needed like 20,000, and I was like, holy crap, 10 days left, and there's Christmas, and there's New Year's, and all this stuff. I don't know. But I just kept the vision before me, and December 30th came, and we hit 46,000, and December 31st came, and we finished region with 59,099 new people on our team. So I'm just telling you, and that was the year that I earned Parade of Champions. I promoted, I think it was 15 direct district managers that year. You guys, I'm just a mom. You know, I don't like to do laundry, probably the same as you. I mean, I usually wear sweatpants. I'm not really anything extraordinary. I just chose to mind my mind and do the do. And people kept asking that year, you know, what's your secret? And I was like, gosh, there's not a secret. The secret is really, I'm not one of the chosen few. I'm just one of the few who chose. I chose to mind my mind, and I chose to do the do, even when it didn't look pretty, right? That moment on the stage was just a culmination of all of the moments that I decided to keep on keeping on. So I just share that with you guys, not because I want to toot my own horn and, you know, any of that. I just want you to know that if I can do it, I 1000% know that you can do it too. So I hope that gives you hope. I hope that gives you inspiration. I hope that you feel empowered, because this really is empowering. If you can understand how powerful this is, this tool that we have in our hands, I mean, it's accessible, you guys. It's powerful. It's very empowering. So I hope that gives you hope. I want to finish tonight with a quote. I always like to finish with this quote because it's my favorite. And I feel like it's so accurate, and it's a great, you know, wrap to this. So, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. And we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God, and your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will not feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in every one. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So I just want to finish with that. You guys, you are worthy. You are worth it. Go change the world, right? So thank you for having me tonight, you guys. I know I went like right up to the end, but thank you so much. I love sharing this message. So it's such an honor to be able to share it with you guys.
Thank you.
Oh, that was amazing. Thank you, Bethany.
And if you'll send me those links, I would really appreciate it.
I sure will. I definitely will. Yes, I'll do it right now.
Thank you so much for doing. I know it's late there, and thank you so very much.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, you guys.
Bye.
Night.